Joining us live now is Paul Hearson. He's a spokesperson for the Israeli Foreign Ministry. Thanks indeed for joining us. Now, the Israeli government say it'll investigate the bombing of an UN school in which 20 Palestinians died. However, we've heard from the Israeli ambassador to Russia, that the school was empty at the time. Is that your position?
Well, very good. Thank you for having me. There are so many different events going on at the moment. I'm not sure that the ambassador you were talking about is talking about the same incident you are talking about. To the best of my understanding, the incident you're talking about is a school which was hit. It's being investigated right now. Nobody knows whether it was hit by Israeli fire or by Hamas fire. It's one or the other. It's obviously the case, and civilians were killed there. This is precisely the tragedy of what Hamas has brought down on both sides of this conflict. So it's likely that the ambassador was speaking about a different incident to the one you are speaking about.
OK, now the head of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees spoke to the UN Security Council on Thursday, describing the consequences of the Israeli offensive on Gaza. Let's just take a quick listen.
I have seen extensive damage done to whole neighborhoods and essential infrastructure. I have, in particular this morning, seen the catastrophic human cost of this war at the pediatric ward in the main hospital in Gaza, with broken bodies that are the real and unacceptable consequence of an armed conflict waged with excessive and at times disproportionate force in densely populated urban settings.
Like, it's incredibly graphic and it is tragic. Aren't you concerned about the soaring number of civilian deaths? Almost 1,400 people can hardly be called collateral damage at this stage, can it?
Well, you know, we are concerned. We're very concerned. We're doing everything we possibly can to limit and to restrict the civilian casualties in very difficult circumstances. You know, we're up against a school of thought which has elevated suicide to a place in society which amounts to nothing less than the worship of death. One time they locate themselves inside a school, one time they locate themselves adjacent to a school, one time they locate themselves in a hospital, and one time they locate themselves adjacent to a hospital. It's a terrible, terrible tragedy that's unfolding before our eyes, the responsibility for which lies directly at the doorstep of Hamas, who are deliberately locating themselves, as the Secretary General of the United Nations himself said, as the Secretary of State of the United States said, in civilian neighborhoods in order to draw some fire.
But nevertheless,
yes,
let's just speak about that UN school, because we do know that your government said it's ready to apologise if Israel indeed carried out the attack. Do you think a simple apology will suffice for the deaths we've seen?
Look, I'm not going to belittle the death of any civilian. This is precisely the reason why we did not want to be in this conflict in the first place. We said so repetitively, loud and clear. We also did quietly through the diplomatic channels that quiet would be answered with quiet. For 3 weeks prior to our being forced to go in to put a stop to this, we've accepted and implemented and abided by 5, I think it is, ceasefire proposals, all of which were rejected and violated by Hamas. The human tragedy that Hamas has brought down on both sides in this conflict is catastrophic. They have abused the Palestinian people and will be judged very badly by history for that.
It's missiles. It's attacks by your country. International journalists covering the conflict have said they've never seen so many children's deaths. So many. That is their words. Neither back in the previous war, even in Libya or Syria. No, how do you react to that?
Well, first of all, I will say to you that I think that the trade in blood, in numbers, is a little bit distasteful, especially since nobody has the numbers. Again, it's a cold and horrible reality. But to say that it's anything anywhere approaching what goes on in Libya or in Syria, of course, you and I both know is simply silly. We're talking 200,000 people who've been butchered in Syria, and up to, let's say, 1,500 over here. in tragic circumstances, about 40% of whom are armed terrorists. But that leaves too many civilians who have been killed. Look, we know of at least 150 cases where Hamas missiles have fallen short and landed and done significant damage in the Gaza Strip. We know of tens and tens and tens of booby-trapped houses by Hamas waiting for our soldiers, which have caused incredible damage inside Gaza. But I agree with you. A lot of the damage is also being caused on Israel's side. And this is precisely the reason why we didn't want to be in this conflict.
Paul Hirson, Israeli Foreign Ministry spokesperson, thank you for speaking to us this hour.